Live. Hello and welcome to another Kerfuffle panel webinar. Today we have the wonderful Charlotte Jeffrey Campbell with us, trainer to the Estate Agent Stars. How are you, Charlotte?
I'm very good, thank you. Yes, that was a nice intro. Thank you for that.
I practiced that all morning. And now the other two intros, which are going to be a bit more impromptu. We're also joined by estate agents extraordinaire, Gareth Ashington and Craig Thompson. Hi, Gareth. Hi, Craig.
Hi, David.
Hi, how are you?
We're all good. We're all good. Thanks for joining us. So, Charlotte, today's topic is the year of training innovation, 2021. None of us knew that 2021 was going to be very different to the way that we predicted. But life has accelerated a little bit in the last couple of years in terms of innovations, and particularly training, which always used to be a face-to-face thing. There wasn't really distance training in our industry, and if there was, it wasn't decent. But we've had to adapt and we've had to sort of change our way of thinking. So now we're living in this hybrid world where we can choose to sort of meet each other face to face, and we can still deliver great content over the air, just like we're doing right now. How has your life changed, Charlotte?
Do you know what? I think for me, it's all about that blend, isn't it? The reason we started Able Agent was because we had that real. I've always trained people, and I trained an agent. I'd see them for a big day, a heavy day, where I blitzed them all, and then a year later, I'd see them again for a blitzing day. And it's brilliant because I've got lovely agent clients, and I love meeting them. I love face to face. But we always felt that there was this gap in the middle. What do they do in the time that they're not being trained on these face-to-face days? So I think the view is that it's that blended style, isn't it? The Able Agent's designed to be that constant in terms of training that takes the hassle away from the agent. But yeah, last year when we were supposed to launch Able Agent at a big event, we'd hired a room, we'd ordered mugs. I mean, I've got hundreds of mugs. If anyone wants a mug, I've got a lot of mugs. We ordered mugs, and then COVID hit and we had to cancel the event. But actually, then what unfolded with people going on to furlough, we just jumped up and said, look, we've got all this online training. Does anyone want to use it while you're on furlough? And I think we ended up with about 1,000 people signed up over furlough on Able Agent. Some of the really big, agency network corporates signed up and used it. Obviously, they haven't signed up and paid for it yet, but I'm working on that. But they all signed up and gave loads of their staff training because it was a need at the time. And I think what people realised when they looked at Able Agent is it's not how we thought online training might be. I think nobody really understood how effective it can be. But I think we've proved that we can make things real and engaging and useful and practical, and we solve the problems. Our aim was always to make life easy so that the estate agent hasn't got this hassle thinking, oh God, I need to sort out training. We've done it for you,
And so in terms of the flexibility of your particular brand of online training, I know that there's many out there, but with yours, it's tailored to estate agents. Can they dip in and out of it whenever they want, or is it training that has to be given at a certain time, or is there absolute flexibility?
It's completely flexible. It's flexible in what you study and when you study it and how long you take, because that was the thing that I've always felt. Every agent works different. It has a different attitude to training. Agents don't all train in the same way. You've got very formal pathway with corporates. Smaller agents find it difficult to access good training, so it becomes more spasmodic than regular. So ours it's sales skills, it's customer service, it's property law, it's compliance, it's property management, sales progression, estate agency skills, lettings legislation. So if you want to up your skills in legislation, you go on to that course. If you want to be better at compliance, you go on that course. If you want to be better at sales, you have a look at that. And if you want to be an Able Agent, you do it all.
Hey, that's the soundbite in editing. That's the one we're looking for, guys, all right? Gareth and Craig, thank you for joining us to give your perspective as agents. Gareth, how important is training? I mean, I know we will all say that training is very important, but some of us are particularly bad at working it into our workflow, because traditionally it's always been something you had to take a day off for. And if you were sending members of staff for training, it meant that you had to sort of work out office cover during those days. So I don't know about you, but for me as a boss, training became a whole day of anxiety of, we're losing Charlotte for the day, what happens?
Yeah, agreed. And I think before we used Able Agent, we would do the equivalent that Charlotte's described. So we'd hire someone for the day. We'd have to go and hire a room in a local hotel, everybody out of the office cover. And you did wonder how much people retained 48 hours after that day's learning. Because I think we all know that sometimes you have to see things maybe in a video plus reading the book. You need to learn things 6, 7, 8 times. And it doesn't mean that you're silly that it takes that number of times. That's just how we are as humans with all the distractions that we have. And so I think this is so much more efficient than the Charlotte for a day and then seeing her in 12 months' time. It is what you've described, Charlotte, the drip, drip. And therefore it goes in. You remember it.
You're right. That's just to jump in there. I don't take things in first time. So I really look at it from my point of view, and I need to read something, I need to think about it, I need to go back, and then I absorb it. And the way we've designed the Able Agent content is everything's kind of mirrored. So if you're doing about handling a buyer inquiry, the handling a tenant inquiry may be similar. So you do the videos in both, and then you do the ebooks in both. So really 4 times that's similar. Obviously it's not the same content, is being reinforced. So the more you can reinforce the message, it becomes something that people take on board more effectively, definitely.
And we all take notes, don't we, when we're sort of in a training session? There are those people that copious note takers, and it's never quite the same when you sort of read it back. It loses its context sometimes. So to be able to sort of watch something again, or to pick up on that resource online is just, I think, an amazing efficiency. Craig, talking of the importance of training, there's a to a certain extent, our industry is fairly fast moving, and if we don't prepare for what's coming up, we'll open the newspapers in the morning, find out that a bit of legislation that we were sure was coming up in a few months' time is coming in tomorrow. And we all need to sort of pivot and work out what we're doing with that. I've met a lot of agents over my time, and it's fair to say there's a fair amount of us that are just flying by the seat of our pants and just try and wing it. So you'll read something in the press, you'll decide what your take on it is, and you'll work out how to very quickly implement that into your estate agency and into the service that you're providing, and how your staff will handle it. It's not always the best way. I'm presuming there's more value in being better prepared.
I mean, that's one of the things that led us to Charlotte, definitely. I mean, Kate, who you met briefly before, we set up our agency in the middle of the pandemic, or we decided to anyway. 1 second. And we launched earlier this year. Kate's been a lister for 15 years, and she hasn't done any training at all since she first started with Countrywide 15 years ago. So I was aware really quickly that there were, if she's got gaping gaps in her knowledge, and we're a young business and we're recruiting a team, then training was always going to be a huge part of what we were trying to do. I felt it was really important to make sure that the team thought that training was something progressive and looking forward, rather than it was something that they were being forced to do, and that keeping them aware of changes in the industry so that we could be a bit more, nimble around that was really important to us, because we're such a small team.
So it sort of gives you that confidence, doesn't it, that the advice that you're then providing to your clients is fully backed up by somebody that knows what they're doing.
And I think, sorry, go on, Craig.
That was it, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that what we find is that with training for new legislation, what happens is there's an article on Pi, or there's a document from Property Mark or whatever. They're all very good, but they tend to replicate the legal language that comes on any government website. So what you end up sending to your team is the email off the government website, written in a reasonably complicated language. Now you expect to send that through to your negotiators or sales team at the front, and for them to understand how that relates to their job role is very tricky. So what we try and do is translate the language that the government gives us into a language that estate agents know and understand. And that was one of the things that we were most passionate about, that the language we use in Able Agent and in the CPAP exam is the language agents use, because I think that's something that they struggle with sometimes.
And in terms of not just speaking estate agent language, because let's face it, it is a language all of its own, but
Yeah.
We also need to be able to communicate that to the end user, or the beneficiaries of this service, which is our clients. And very often, I mean, I've seen this done before. When a new piece of legislation comes in, you can hear, it'll be, moreover, it's in the lettings department, but you'll hear a lettings neg pick up the phone and tell a landlord that, you know, such and such a legislation came in yesterday, and as a result of that, you now need X, Y, Z. We assume that landlords are on top of things and that they understand the same terminology that is written in those articles or press releases. They don't, and sometimes they need things communicating to them in very, very simple language that rather than baby them, but that a layman can understand, because we don't just represent professional landlords, we also represent people that have become accidental landlords over the years, people to whom this is their only investment and it's extremely important, but you need to be able to communicate that to them.
I think for us, that is your massive sales opportunity, surely. If your team are confident, they understand the law, they can explain it clearly, they're questioning their customer, they're finding out what they do know, what their experience is, what's going wrong with their life at the landlord at the moment, then the ability to sell that service that you offer is massive. So although you learn the law on Able Agent, I hope the guys will agree with me, everything we talk about is about use this knowledge to be more expert, to get your fees up, to win more business. The whole premise of it is I'm a salesperson, I'm not a lawyer. So what I want is to use the law for the people using the training to gain that confidence. But ultimately, it's always going to be about winning the business, isn't it?
It is. I'm just reading some of the comments here, and you've got your fan club has tuned in.
Sean.
Sean has tuned in. She said she loves that Charlotte Jeffrey Campbell. And
I'm speaking to her tomorrow or today, or I've got her booked in. Hi, Sean.
She's buttering you up, I think, for the conversation later. But Sean goes on to say that she totally agrees with Charlotte. Everything needs putting into context that anyone can understand, so we can put it into action. So that is superb. She's meeting you on Friday. This is one of the great values of doing this live. It's only so Sean can confirm her appointment.
If anybody else wants to book an appointment, obviously Friday's free.
So in terms of from your perspective, guys, in terms of getting the most out of a Able Agent, you've now got the best of both worlds, really. You've got the ability to get Charlotte in if you want that inspiration, and I guess that's also what trainers do. Seeing them face to face, there is a bit of an energy. Hopefully they're going to fill you not just with confidence, but with kind of a renewed passion, I would say, for your particular area, because we all become jaded over time, and sometimes you need somebody else, an outside perspective, geeing you up and cheering you on. So you've got the best of both worlds. Is it easy to sort of use that hybrid approach and to know when is the right time to see Charlotte in person and how long you can go online without seeing them? Open question to either.
Me. I mean, we've not got anything booked in with you, Charlotte, and we'd love to.
I'm loving the plug, by the way.
I love how what I'm basically doing today is confirming all of Charlotte's appointments for her next week.
I think the available dates are behind Charlotte.
Yeah,
Drop it into chat. Yeah.
Full of covering your train fare as well. So. But I think for us that I know with kind of talked about a bit of this, but having it as a resource so that everyone can learn at their own pace. We've tried different people in the team kind of use Able Agent in different ways, whether they're using it daily for like 15 minutes and just sort of chipping away at bits of the content, or they're giving away half a day a week to it, or every couple of weeks to it, or even doing it in their own time if they feel they need to catch up. Being able to bolster that with in-person training is going to be great for us and great for the team, definitely.
I think it's about that. You can make your face-to-face training so much more efficient. Because for me, I mean, this wasn't really about face-to-face training. I happened to do some yesterday for the first time this year in London, which was brilliant. But what I did with that training, because we've got Zoom now, it wasn't my Able Agent world, actually. It was just my normal old school training world. I was able to Zoom meeting with them, set them a plan, give them some material to read and study, and then I followed up with the live session. So the effectiveness of that live session is dramatically increased because they've got an awareness firsthand. Now that wasn't necessarily what I was looking to talk about today, but I do think as I came away from the session yesterday, apart from being on the train with the Great Unwashed, I didn't like that, people sneezing all over me. I've had a year of no trains. but the benefit of that, it made me think that actually that money spent in terms of face-to-face training, if you bolster that with this drip approach, as Craig calls it, I think it's going to be much more effective if you do choose to go down the road of face-to-face training. And there's some great trainers out there, there's some fantastic people. And the online stuff, it doesn't all have to be Able Agent. Kerfuffle's got the campus. Whatever your blended approach to training is, I think for me it's about that strategy and a plan. So I don't think it's just pick and choose and just chuck it at people. It's how is that our plan? Have you planned yours in, Gareth? How did you work it all?
Wait a second, Gareth. I'm just going to get the diary out and see when it's next available. All right.
Very good. How did we plan it out? I think we joined you. You might be able to tell us, Charlotte. I think we joined Able Agent. I think in about May of last year.
Yeah.
And we were pretty much all at home all of the time. At that stage, and how we've come out of it all is we kind of blend it. We were doing a quiz every week, and we've now changed that to every other week. And so basically we literally pick a module every fortnight, and it's fixed in our diary. So we've got a cloud-based diary and it's fixed in there, and you can either be in the office if you're there that day, or there's a Zoom link which is reoccurring. And it doesn't matter whether it's sales or lettings, we just literally do one quiz, and the whole team, and there's about, 10, 11, 12 in the office at any one time, just comes to one point in the middle of the office, the rest joined by Zoom who can make it, and the whole company does, for example, 1 week a quiz on lettings, compliance, or something else, just the quiz. And
does that get you talking about it all? Because I think
yeah,
that's the key, isn't it?
And if it's lettings, then we're making sure that, and we're sales, and I'm in sales, it's we're grabbing our lettings colleagues, right? You need to be here, and then you sort of have a bit of fun, gently tease them. You should know the answer to this, shouldn't you? Kind of thing.
That's great.
And it's just a good bit of fun, and we're still doing it. We've been doing that for months.
It's great.
So that's a sort of little variation. That you can have for people that aren't based in your office. They can just join via the Zoom link.
I think from a retention point of view, that sort of thing is very powerful because people will remember that. And even if they don't necessarily remember the correct answer, they'll work through the conversation that went around it. Because half the time, if you do your qualifications, it's not being able to suddenly think of the right answer from memory. It's about applying the knowledge that you've gained and using it to make a sensible decision, whether it's in your exam or the way you apply your job role, isn't it?
Yeah. And also for those members of staff that, because you always get 2 or 3 that really engage with it. I mean, we had 2 members of staff recently. One did 15 courses in a month, 15 modules, and the other did 11. And some have done none. And so what it does by getting together every fortnight is for those who haven't really engaged, it sort of helps remind them it's still there and that it's really doable.
Yeah. And I think that what we've found over the last year of Able Agent is there is very much that. And sometimes the people who aren't doing it, it's fear. They feel like it's overwhelming. They don't know where to start. And I think that little bite-sized chunks just to get people going is really good. So when we talk about the content, we'll often say, Start with the stuff that you know you'll be fine with. Start with the stuff that you're going to find easy, because you'll pass your quiz, you'll get your percentage bars going up, and you feel like you're making progress. And then when you're familiar with the platform and confident with that, then you do the tricky stuff. I've got one lady, I won't name her because she'll be cross with me. She's dyslexic and she struggles with her learning. And she rings me every week. I don't charge for this, but I ought to. She rings me every week with a, what shall I do now? What shall I do now? But because of her learning style, she finds it very difficult. So we understand that not only do we as individuals have different learning styles, sometimes we've got really bad experiences in our learning in the past and we're not confident about it. So something that gives you that ability to be confident makes a big difference.
It's not a one-size-fits-all scenario, is it, really, with training or any kind of learning, to be honest. Although Mr. Simon Whale can't be with us today, he can be with us through the medium of Facebook. So here he is. Simon, one of the discussions on Facebook was about what percentage of time should be set aside for staff development. Is there a metric, or is it more complicated than that? So we've touched on that a little bit with what Gareth was saying, in terms of different staff members will engage differently with a platform. And I suppose if you're able to gauge their process, you can sit down, their progress as well, but you can sit down with them and sort of say, look, I'd like you to devote a little bit more time to development in this way. Is that something that you regularly do?
So from our point of view, I saw that article on Facebook that Whaley's referring to, and one of the options was 25% of your time to development. My response, I think, was probably nonsense. You know, it's a very ideological view to say that you need to demonstrate 25%, you dedicate 25% of your time to training. It's not practical. Lovely, I think, if you're sitting, not being the person doing the actual work, you know. We say that if you do half an hour a day, 5 days a week, and you've got a degree of experience, that should give you the pathway to your qualification at around about 6 months. But it's not just about the pathway to your qualification, it's about the fact that you implement. So what I really love about what Gareth's doing is it's that conversation will bring up ideas, and ideas lead to changes, and then those can be implemented in the business. So for me, even our questioning skills film is really powerful, because if you watch that film, which is, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, but you physically as a team do a little activity and decide what questions, that may have only been a 10-minute bit of learning, but the impact on changing everyone's behavior in terms of questioning styles, note-taking on your CRM can have a huge, completely unrelated impact in terms of business generation.
Yeah. Simon has said that he spends at least 85% of his time learning and developing.
Does he say what, though?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think he's fairly transparent with his public record on social media. We all know what he's eating, where he is, what he's doing, and more importantly, what he's wearing.
And what he's dancing to as well.
Breaking news from the property industry. By the time we get off this session, you may indeed have a new housing minister. I think we've seen the back of the last one. Boris is having a reshuffle. If anybody needs a bit of training on housing, I think it's this government.
I still say Kevin Hollingrake for housing minister. I don't know why he's not housing minister. He's the only person in there that would know what he's doing. I'm going to start a campaign. I said that one day. I'm going to start a campaign.
I'd like somebody that understands a little bit about our industry and how it works. Let's move from training, because obviously this is it's a natural progression that if you are training people and if they're engaging with course content and you can keep a track of their progress, you're asking them the right questions, they're getting quizzed, so you've got an accurate way to gauge what it is that's actually sort of sinking in and what might need more work. This is great preparation for qualifications as well. Now, the industry press is awash with reports of what qualifications may be brought in. I think Nathan Emerson was quoted again only yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, talking that property qualifications should be mandatory for agents. What do you offer in that respect, Charlotte?
So we have a level 3 off-qual regulated qualification. So if any of you have studied the Roper report, as I have, you'll notice that the Roper report said it has to be level 3 off-qual regulated. Okay. Now, off-qual regulated basically means it's a high standard of qualification, but it's the level 3. Level 3s are split into 3 sections: an award, a certificate, and a diploma. So the Property Mark level 3 in sale of residential property and lettings, they're an award. Our is actually a certificate, so our credit value is actually slightly higher, but that's because of the breadth of knowledge that we give you over sales and letting. So we have the CPAP, level 3 CPAP, and my business partner very cleverly named it that because obviously people recognise the mortgage letters after your name as CMAP. So it just felt like it followed a similar pathway because with regulation, we'll be following a similar pathway to the mortgage environment, won't we? So in financial services. So the level 3, we've got a great relationship with Nathan and Property Mark. So you can use our qualification to join Property Mark, NAA and ALA. That was a real positive for us. So people recognise that it has a high level of value in terms of content. The nice thing is that the exam, you can either do it in your test centre or you can do it in your office. And when I do my demos, I always describe it as you can sit it with a laptop in your office and there's squirrels behind the scene that check that you're not cheating. I don't think it's actually squirrels, but I don't know. I don't know what happens behind the camera. Anyone could be watching you. But the great thing is you sit.
I'm a little bit worried now. Are there actual squirrels behind me? I'm going to check.
But the nice thing is you haven't got I had a client in Cornwall and they said the nearest test centre for them was an hour and a half away. Now, you take an hour and a half to drive there, plus the panic parking time, an hour and a half to get back, plus the exam. You've lost them for almost a day. So ours is brilliant. You know, we suggest people do it at 9 o'clock. They do it at home on their laptop in peace and quiet. Then they drive into the office when they've done it. So they haven't got that stress. They're starting the day comfortably. You can do it in an office as well on a laptop. You have to be in a room on your own. You can't do it in groups, unfortunately. We did try and find out whether you could do it like a hall of people. But the risk of people cheating would be too great, so they don't let you do that. But the squirrels sit and watch you and check that you're not cheating. So I think it's fascinating. I think it's a really clever tool to be able to have that flexibility. And you get a message afterwards to tell you whether you've passed or failed. So
very good.
In terms, Gareth and Craig, in terms of members of the public, how important do you think it is to them that the agent they're dealing with has got those qualifications? Do you think that's something that you could then market as an agent to point out that I'm not just knowledgeable, but we have a certain minimum standard that we adhere to?
I think for me, I think you'd start to market that. And so it would be a process of educating the people that you deal with that you've got this qualification, whether they would know what it actually means and what level you had to get to attain it, I don't know. But it's a bit like if you're in the gym and you go to a good gym and you've got an instructor, you don't ask to see his qualifications and look up the course that he took. You trust that person or you don't. And their confidence and the advice they give you, I think you make a fairly quick judgment, don't you? That's how it works in my world. So I think yes, we will definitely go to market, the training courses and the qualifications without a doubt. But I think it may just help the confidence it gives us all individually. It might help people to trust us quicker.
Charlotte, Gareth, Craig, thank you very much for giving up your time today. It is a new age for training. Anybody that's interested, all of Charlotte's details are on Kerfuffle, and if you want a taster of what Charlotte provides, give us a shout, and we'll get you onto Kerfuffle campus as well, because Charlotte's courses are coming there soon.
Yes, they are. They've just got to get myself organised. Absolutely, coming soon. Yeah.
Coming soon to a digital interface near you.
All right, all good. Thank you,
guys. Take care.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Craig.
You too.
Bye. Nice to see you all.